Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today we're going to be comparing Reptichip to new Gaps bedding. So let's get started. Alright guys, so I am new to hearing about Gaps. It's this bottom bag right here, and they actually make compressed bedding. I've heard of Freedom Breeders, Reptichip, and a few others. But this is the first time I've ever heard of them, so I decided to give them a shot and order some. So up on top here we have Reptichip. The way I used to purchase it was you could buy, I believe it was 8 or 10 bricks at a time, but they came without the bag. It was like a breeder bundle, but unfortunately they no longer have it. And price-wise right now, this brick is around $35 plus tax. Even when you buy bulk, it's still around $30. And bulk, these ones are around $25, so about $10 cheaper. So I want to give them both a shot and compare them side by side. If you guys watch Jason Exotics, he tried this out, so I figured I would try just these two. He did a bunch of different beddings. I thought I would just compare to the one I use, which is Reptichip, and how it compares to the cheaper version. So first we'll do the Reptichip. This temperature water is cold. Last time we did a bedding video for you guys, I accidentally used hot water and it absorbed way too much, so I showed you guys how to fix it. So this time I made sure that it was cold, and this is just regular tap water. So normally you hold it down for about 15 or 20 seconds. And then flip it, hold it again. The one thing I have noticed about this Reptichip, I'm not sure if it's all the beddings, but for whatever reason, the centers never seem to pull apart for me. They still stay dry, and if I leave them in too long in this water, then they fall apart or they're too wet. So maybe it's just a Reptichip thing, maybe it's all the brands, but that is something that I've found pretty frustrating, is I'm normally breaking apart the middle once I'm done, or it ends up being too wet. So we're going to flip it, and we'll leave that right there. That's the Reptichip. I'm going to get this stuff. It's pretty heavy. They feel about the same weight, and they're definitely the same size. The only thing I've noticed off the bat was this plastics. It kind of falls apart, and this breaks really easy, but that's just the coating or casing, so it doesn't really affect. I won't put it against it. This one does have a lot more dust in it, I already can tell. It just dumped a lot in the water, but that could just be from the outside packaging. This one seems to be falling apart quite a bit faster. Maybe I'll flip it over faster. Alright, so we'll pop this in other bin. So yeah, that one was definitely falling apart faster. Already side by side, this one swelled up a bit more. But I'll leave both of them for about 20 minutes and see how much that they've swelled up and show you guys the results. Okay guys, so it's been about 20 minutes. First thing we automatically can see is the Reptichip. It stayed together really nice, but it's definitely a lot smaller. This is the Gaps, and it's quite a bit larger. It's not only raised, but it's come outward also. So this actually looks more volume, but I don't know if that's dust or not until we break it apart. So first we'll do the Reptichip. Like I said, the worst part about it is I always find there's like a dry center. Yeah, I can already... Yeah, I always find, for whatever reason, there's this dry center. Maybe I'm not putting in the water long enough. If you guys know why, put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear. But there's always this dry core that ends up having to get either soaked again or I gotta break apart. Because this is bone dry in the middle. So Give me a minute, let me break it completely apart, and then we'll see how much it filled the container. So as you can see, we're pretty much done breaking this one up. There was a bunch of dry in the center. You can see this lighter stuff. So it's still gonna have to get broken down a little bit more, but let me mix the wet and the dry. You can get a little bit more accurate how much it swelled up to. All right, now to the gaps. I'm hoping they don't have such a dry center. Yeah, so already this seems, it is a little bit dry in the middle, but it's definitely falling apart a lot easier than the Reptichip. We're in Buffalo, New York here, and it's one of our last warm days. We decided to film outside, so it might be a little windy. So yeah, this is definitely still dry in the middle, but it's breaking apart a lot easier. Like, much, much easier. When you guys get bedding, no matter where you get it from, they always recommend that you really check through it. So sometimes you'll find little paper pieces, sometimes you'll even find pieces of plastic. So you want to make sure you give it a good search through every time you open a new bag. But so size-wise, I think they blew out to about the same amount. I think the gaps looks like it blew up a little bit more. Dust-wise, I do think the gaps has a little bit more dust to it. We saw that when we put the water in, and just by moving it around, I can see a lot more dust coming out. But the pieces seem to be larger. Most of these pieces seem to be a bit bigger. They're pretty similar, but this just looks like it has more large pieces, which I like. But here's them side by side. They look pretty comparable. But like, as we were talking about, you'll find plastic and stuff. There's a little piece. There's a piece. But you'll find that in any bedding that you get. The Reptichip definitely feels a bit more dense, and this is a bit lighter. But overall, they look pretty comparable. I like how easy it was for that gaps to be able to pull apart, and it seems to swell up a little bit more, but I'm not sure how it's going to hold humidity and stuff like that. But as of right now, I'd call them pretty much even, but I'm going to give these a try for a couple of weeks and I'll come back with the results. Alright guys, so it's a couple of weeks later and I've got some results for you. So first thing I want to show you is the racks in front of me right now. They have the gaps in it. So as you can see, it's actually holding humidity quite a bit more than I'm used to. I've been using Reptichip for a couple of years now, and it doesn't seem to hold humidity quite as well as this stuff, which can be good or bad depending on what species you have and what purpose you're going to be using it for. For me, I prefer it a little bit less humid, but it could have been me just by the way I swelled it up. I just did what I've always done with Reptichip. Maybe I had it in the water for too long, I'm not sure, but it does seem to be a bit more humid than Reptichip, which again isn't a bad thing. It just depends on, you know, the humidity of your room, what species you have, what you're looking to do with it. But I did notice that, and the only other thing difference-wise is you can tell a difference by looking. The Reptichip seems to look a little bit cleaner. That's just because, like when we showed you earlier, it looks almost like there's a bit of dust in the gaps, but because it holds that humidity so well, it doesn't get like airborne dust. It just makes it look a little bit dirtier almost. But again, that's not really a bad thing, especially for being a cheaper product. That's totally to be expected. But with them being so close in quality, but the gaps being cheaper, I think that that's a great option. If they could, for example, get just a little bit more dust out of the product, I think they would be right on par with Reptichip, and especially being a lower priced product, you really can't beat it. So I'm happy with both products. I've really loved Reptichip for the few years I've been using it, but I'm really looking forward to being able to use gaps a little bit longer, keep working with it, and keep seeing how the quality comes in. But that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do new videos every Wednesday, and I'll see you next Wednesday.